Hello and welcome to episode 39 of the TRUUMAN Podcast, the podcast designed to create a generation of self-defined men. Today, I'm joined again by Darren Brookes. Darren, thank you so much for being with me. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Lewis. How are you, man? Episode 39, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, it's 39 is actually my favorite number, which is a story for another day. But that's good because this is a special episode in the sense that repeat guest, but also for a reason. So just to sort of
Yeah,
bring
man.
everyone up to speed, myself and Darren are looking to put an event on in November, the 23rd of November, around this year's theme of International Men's Day, which is positive male role models. It's going to be an in-person event in Staffordshire. So the link for all that will be below so that you can get your tickets and attend. But what we want to do today is we want to intro the event, explain a little bit about who's going to be there, what it's all about, and why we've decided to do an event. So, Darren, let's start with that.
Yeah,
Why
man.
did you come to me and say, let's do an event?
I think there's so much celebration, Lewis, on International Women's Day. There's a lot of in-person women's events, a lot of webinars and stuff for the ladies, which is amazing. And men kind of just seem to get left behind. I think International Men's Day is not very often celebrated. A lot of men, I can't imagine, even know when it is, which is quite sad in itself. And what they do is they put different themes across each year. And I thought this one, with it being positive male role models, what a time to do an event and give that day more exposure, get people together. I think there's so much stuff going on in the men's space, and some of it gets a lot of negative press. Um, it'll always seem to be. It'll make I'm not one for mainstream media anyway, as you know, but it'll make the mainstream media when something bad happens. That's the bottom line. Which you could probably argue. So does a lot of stuff. But the positive aspects of masculinity and stuff, I don't think make it. They don't report on those things. And I think it's important that we do.
Yeah, well, I guess to echo that, that's why I agreed to do it with you. I felt that masculinity is being questioned, is being perceived as
Yeah,
negative, and all of these things, which there is. We have to accept that there is toxicity in the world, and there is toxic
of course, man.
masculinity, and that is a thing that exists. And but there is things to be celebrated, and there's things to be embraced as a man, and I think it's really important. And I think for me, as a digital guy, as someone who's doing a podcast, who's built apps, lived online for years,
Yeah,
and gone through COVID, I realized that in person is great and it's really powerful. And for me to put something on in person would be great because it's bringing people together. I've done one event. You're the expert in the events. I had 14 people there, and it was great to sort of see
awesome,
men talk about men and do those sort of things. But why don't
brilliant.
you tell us a little bit more about your events and sort of the positivity that you've seen from that side?
Yeah, so just going off what you said there, there's so much bad shit going on in the world, man. So much crazy shit, and it's a snapshot of what is actually going on in the world. Unfortunately, it's a snapshot that's pushed a lot. That is what people want to hear about. They want to know. They want to know the drama. They want to know the chaos, and they sort of they'll feed into that essentially. And that stuff will always be going on. However, there's also all these amazing things going on in the world that are very not reported very often. I can't recall the book, but there was a book that was written, and it was on like teenage pregnancy, hunger, and it was all these statistics, and it was whether over time you thought that these all these issues have got better or have they got worse. And you did a little quiz at the beginning. Um, and I feel that I've got quite a good outlook on that. And she says the girl who showed me the book, she says you've done really well in that quiz. That's quite a high score. but it was higher than what I scored, and it was like most of these things had actually improved. Yeah, when you see him on a 24-hour news cycle, it looked like they'd all got worse. And they hadn't, teenage pregnancy had dropped, like there was less people starving than there used to be. So all these sort of positive things had happened. But if you looked at what the mainstream churn out, you would think that, the world's completely going to shit. So that, I think that's important to highlight, like that there's always good stuff going on. And there's also some of the people that I suppose are painted as bad people, or painted as like the villain in the mainstream media a lot of the time, are also doing good work. I saw through a lot of the COVID stuff, some of these guys that they painted as the villains, when you actually looked at what a lot of these people were doing, it was for the greater good of humanity. But the mainstream, whatever their agenda is, I think it's hard for people to suss out. But they want that. They want that spot. They want that clickbait. They want that sort of terrible sort of headline, so that you click in and you delve in a little bit further. And a lot of the time, when you do delve in, and you read the article, it's never as bad as what the headline was anyway. But you've clicked on it there, so you've just paid them. But yeah, on the events front, I run events for men. It's called Seat at the Table. What I try and do, Lewis, is actually I had this vision a few years ago of kind of bringing personal development to Stoke-on-Trent. There wasn't a lot of personal development stuff going on in Stoke-on-Trent at the time, and part of that vision was to have non-professional speakers, really, or people that really had a good story to share, but weren't necessarily your typical speakers. I think when you see some of these guys, like in the coaching world, like Tony Robbins and people like that, what they're talking about can seem that far away from what the normal guy is, that it's a bit like unrelatable. So I put a Dreams to Goals event on in 2020 at the not the Quality Hotel, the hotel on Festival site, which is now the Hilton, the Moat House. And good event, went really well. It was two guys. It was actually Chris from Feasted, who's going to be speaking a little bit at our event, and another guy, Chandler Jones, who were, for want of a better word, they were normal guys that were doing well in their fields. They weren't professional speakers. And the event went down really well. So the idea, was to put another event on. I had the next event booked in, then the world closed down, so that event was cancelled. In that time between what was kind of going on, in that time between doing that event and what was sort of going on in the world over that period of time, my work was gravitating more towards working with men. And one of the things that I saw from COVID was, despite what people's views are on that, is I saw people that were like melting down, basically, Lewis, really crumbling. And I saw other people thriving, and I saw other people mentally getting better. This was sort of seen through social media. And one of the things that I thought at that time is I was running a dad's group with Alice Charity, which was ringing the guys each week. And that was a lifeline to these single dads. Somebody was ringing him every week, and then when we did have the opportunity to catch up, we did catch up once a month. And I thought every man needs this, not just dads. Every man needs a group of guys around them that can encourage them, support them, push them to get better. So the sort of concept of Seat at the Table was born from that. At that time, I didn't really do anything with it. It was just kind of growing in my mind, I suppose, if you will. And those events of bringing that sort of personal development to Stoke-on-Trent changed into putting events on for men, where men could share their story. Again, it wasn't professional speakers. It was speakers that had been through something, that were going through something, had overcome something that could help those other guys in the room. And it's kind of just sort of grown from there, really. I know that's a bit of a long round the houses answer, but
No, it's great. I mean, it's exactly what I set out to do with the podcast, right? Which was to get real
yeah.
men and get real stories. And I think it's really important. I guess for listeners outside of the UK, really, Stoke is not the greatest economically. It's not exactly an area that's thriving, and that is due to a number of reasons. But that obviously creates its own issues as well. And I think when
Definitely.
you're trying to get away from the bottom or rock bottom, or you're finding that thing, it can be demotivating to tune into a Tony Robbins or a Joe Rogan,
Yeah,
who essentially are millionaires with their life together. It's quite hard to see that, and it's very hard to
definitely, mate.
relate. Obviously, some of them have been through shit and are doing X, Y, and Z, and you can sort of piece that together, and it is aspirational, which is great. But I really like those raw conversations, those truthful conversations. Another thing as well is, like, I think we'll get onto this, but as you get older and as you sort of mature or change your path, things come into place that are more important. So that might be family, that might be job, whatever it
Yeah,
might be. And your perspective of success changes. And it's always good to hear from other people that are successful in a different way, that isn't just material or financial or status in the sense of X amount of
very
million of
true.
followers. I think you can, well, this ties in beautifully to what we're talking about, right? Role models are everywhere. Models can be everywhere, and you need to pick and choose and find who they are. So yeah, it really resonates with me, and
Yeah,
that's I guess that's one of the reasons why we chose Stoke, right? Was that it's basically almost crying out for this sort of event where men can get together, because it's almost rarer that men would get together outside of the pub, really, in this space.
yeah. The pub and the football, mate, isn't it? That's the thing, and that that what we've got in Stoke is probably emulated in a lot of the towns in the UK as well. You go into the cities and it's a different story. There's it's a lot more multicultural. There's a lot of people with different sort of wealth backgrounds. Um, but in the smaller towns, it's like the sort of cities are thriving and the smaller towns have been forgotten about a little bit, isn't it? And yeah, touching on that again, I think what because Tony Robbins and people like that, they've come so far from where they were. I wouldn't say they've forgotten I've forgotten where they were, but they don't talk about where they were because it seems so far away from where they actually are now. I did an interview, well, a sort of discussion, a sit down chat with a guy who's in Ireland, and he had a painting commissioned by Conor McGregor. But he lives in a big house now. He's got a nice life, but he's truly not forgotten about when he was in the depths of addiction, and he put his trainers at the end of his bed, and he was like, tomorrow I'm going to run. And he did. He put his trainers on. He went out running. He said there was people stopping the cars because he looked that ill and he was chucking up in the street. Are you all right, mate? And he was like, not really. But he kept on doing it. He kept on doing it, and he still talks about it because it's still fresh in his mind. And he says it will never not be fresh in his mind. And I love that. I love people that have sort of, burnt everything to the ground, but they're slowly building it back up and just sharing those little tips with other people that can help um, is so powerful. And I think my brother always says this, but when it's somebody that you know or somebody that you're a bit close to, it just hits different, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
It just hits different than seeing somebody on YouTube, or when you're actually speaking to that person yourself, it really sort of it hits you different and kind of makes you feel that like anything is possible.
yeah, definitely. I like that. I like the. It's almost like finding role models for where you're at and what you're trying to achieve. Like, I
Definitely, mate.
think one thing that I'm really pro is people that are proactive and are pushing themselves and want to reach a level, but I want people to reach a level sustainably. I think
Right.
get rich quick, um, abs in 6 weeks, whatever the
Yes.
crap is
Just
online,
writing about that now, actually.
is all well and good. And I mean, maybe you can achieve certain things, but as you sort of mentioned with that guy there, he's taken that journey like that, and he's not forgotten down there. Whereas if you just go like that, it can create other boundaries and other elements to it. Sort of like imposter syndrome can sort of step in,
Yeah.
and all of these things as well. So
Yeah.
for me, I like sustained building blocks of success rather than trying to find a shortcut and trying to get there. Because you'll agree with this, I'm sure. The answer isn't the end goal; it's about getting to the end goal in inverted commas, which over periods change and over times change, which is sort of goes into what I want to talk about next, which is if we look at the word role model, what does that mean to you right now?
For me, what perfectly captures a role model is the honesty, I think, of the journey. Just being honest that, fuck up, I make mistakes. I also get, I get my successes, I get my wins, but that's not just life. These wins and stuff aren't life. It's that you make mistakes, and it's taking those lessons and learning from them. And the other big one is doing what you say you're going to do, being that example. You got people pushing courses on, we spoke about this, didn't we, on property and things like that, that aren't even doing what they're teaching people. They're making the money off these programs that they're selling. It's not something they do. And the two people that I follow quite closely, who I suppose you would class as like minor celebrities, is like Andy Frisella and Sean Whalen. And I follow those two guys purely for that reason, that they're honest about the flaws. They're also honest about how difficult the journey's been, and have not forgotten about it and still talk about it, even though from an outset they're doing financially well. So, yeah, to break it down, role model is somebody that's honest and authentic. I think that honesty and authenticity is important. I fucked up. This is why I did, but this is what I'm going to do about it. This is what I'm going to learn from it, and trying to be what you want to see, especially if that's like in your children. What you want to see. If you want, if you want honest children, be honest. If you want kind children, be kind. If you want fit and healthy children, be fit and healthy. Try and be what you want to see. I think that's essential. And we live in a sort of in an information world now, where information for everything is at our fingertips. We can find out about anything, but sort of digging for those golden nuggets sometimes can be difficult when there's so much people trying to tell you something rather than actually give you an honest portrayal of how it's going to be. One of the things that Andy Frisella says that resonates is like, he says this entrepreneurial journey, it's going to be tough. You're going to lose friends. You're going to do family. He says, try putting that in a course. Nobody wants to buy that. Nobody wants to buy that for $200 or something, because you just told them the blatant truth. People want that shortcut to success, like you say. They want the quick abs, or they want the quick business, or they want the crypto drop that means they haven't got to put any hard work in for the money. They want that quick fix, and those people aren't going to be your role models who are offering you a quick fix, because there's no such thing.
No, there isn't. I mean, people can get rich quick, right? But it's not common, and it's not packaged in it.
Yeah, it's not common, is it? And a lot of the time when you see it, 12 months down the line, come back and check in with that person, and it's all gone.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. I think for me, where I'm at right now, so it's weird, right? Because when I first got into entrepreneurship, we were doing this thing about mentors, and I remember speaking to this guy who was a mentor, and I said, I can't be a mentor because I've only been doing this for X amount of months. And he said to me, well, all about XYZ. At the time, it was what was coined growth hacking, so social media and sort of going down that route. And he was like, that's invaluable to someone. So the fact that you know that now, but you've only been in business 2 or 3 months, doesn't mean that you're not technically a mentor. And I think that sort of goes back to what I like, the role model, and like it's quite hard to feel yourself as a role model, but all of those things that you say, when you have kids, it's a lot easier to say I'm a role model now. But as a man who wants kids, who wants to have a family, who wants to do all of those things, I have to be thinking about that, and I have to be acting in accordance with that now. So like,
Yeah.
for me, the people that I seek out as role models are people that I gain encouragement from, that are doing well within those areas that I want to do in, because I want to see how
Definitely.
they got from there to there, because they didn't become that over the 10 years that their child's been alive, or 3-4 years, whatever it might be. They've obviously gone through some stuff and like that. So it's always looking at people ahead of you in certain things. So like, I'm in my 30s and I've not got kids, but there are people in their 20s who've got 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds that might be the greatest like parents in the world, and they're worth sort of looking at. And as we talk about this positive male role model, it's like, what do you want to be now, and what do you want to be in the future? And bridging that gap, and not looking at extremes and going, well, I want to be Joe Rogan in 15 years. Well, what do you want to be in the next 2 years, 3 years? Where do you sort of see yourself? Find those stepping stones, because that's where I think personally, that's where I think you trip yourself up. Like I've fallen foul to many a get rich quick sort of scheme and process, and trying to sort of emulate something that is some guy with 10 million followers or whatever it might be, and you're thinking, oh shit, this guy's in his 20s, I need to be ahead of this guy, or I need to catch up with him. But as I've sort of grown up, as I've aged, I've realized that it's about finding the people that you resonate with and taking bits from, and sort of tweaking it and going from there. Is that something that you echo, or have you got a different thought on, I guess, picking role models?
I think what you're seeing with a lot of these people, I certainly wouldn't say all, but is that they're being authentically them. So if you see Joe Rogan and the following he's got, he's authentically Joe Rogan. He sat down with his mates having conversations, and we're like, somebody's like, we need to record this, and he's like, well, who'd want to listen to that? And that the probably at that time that people were saying, oh, people want short-term content. Yeah, he was having like 3-hour conversations, and people were watching him. I think he was just authentically taking those steps, and I believe that will happen for everyone. It might not be in the sort of financial sense, but that feeling that you're on the right path and you're doing what you do, I think comes from that authenticity. And I've done exactly the same as you. I've posted content and stuff. I've looked at people and thought I need to post my content more like this. Trying to emulate what somebody else is doing, and it just didn't feel right, and it didn't feel right because it wasn't me. So just being more who I wanted to be, and do my own thing. It feels good. I think it might take, it's going to take you a certain point to where you get to that point where you think, oh, I'm successful. But then what does that look like? Is that, as you said earlier, Lewis, is that financially successful? Is that just feeling great and being able to do what you do? It's funny because a few people are sort of on the finances level, and I've heard quite a few people say this, that you're financially successful when you can go out for a meal and buy all your friends a meal at whatever restaurant without worrying what the bill's going to be, and anything after that is just money or just things. And when you see people speak about buying that car, what they've always wanted, they get it and they absolutely love that feeling. Then the next one is just like, a bit like, what now? I've kind of got that one that I wanted, which sort of touches on again what you said earlier about it's not the destination, it's that journey, it's who you're becoming as you're moving towards what you see that level of success is. Not not the finances. Who am I becoming as I'm overcoming that new obstacle, and who's watching? You don't know who you're inspiring by what you're doing on your journey, and it's just I think just keep taking those steps. but you see, if you look at it in boxing, Tyson Fury fights one way. Muhammad Ali fought another way. They're being them. They're not copying off somebody else. They're just being their authentic self, I suppose, and that works for them. You can't be somebody else.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you and I are on our journey, right? We're trying to do something together, which is great fun. And well, yeah, I'm having fun. I hope you are too, Darren.
Yeah, it's
But
amazing.
we let's talk about the event and like what it's going to look like and sort of go through that. So
Yeah,
um,
awesome.
as I've mentioned, for me, it's really important, I think, to have more than one role model. I think it's really important to be your own
Definitely.
man, be your own person, because as you've just touched on, copying is never going to get you anywhere. And you have a saying on this that's from someone that I forget, which is about taking the bits that you resonate with from people, and that's what we wanted to bring into this event.
Yeah,
So all in all, there's technically 7 speakers, right?
yeah,
Myself and yourself will be speaking, but I've invited 2 people. You've invited 3 people. So the 2 people that I've invited are Dr. Edward Rainbow, who's actually been on the podcast, who for
amazing.
me was a really interesting guy because he was a doctor. He went through depression. He went through the typical antidepressant route and is now um, antidepressant as a first port of call, and looking at other things and looking at testosterone, which again, positive and testosterone are not words that are usually put together. And I think that for me is really important that he explains that and gets that across to people, that male testosterone is normal and is needed and is something that is useful. And so he's one of the speakers. And completely the other side of the coin is Laura Walton Williams, who is a lecturer at Staffordshire University. She also is the head of the VAW group, which is the Violence Against Women and Girls group within Staffordshire University. So they're sort of campaigning and talking about how violence against women and girls can be reduced, what are the things that can be done, and all of these things. And crazy, one of those things is having is positive men in the world rather than
Yeah,
creepy blokes. And so she's going to be talking about that, what she has experienced as a woman, what her friends have experienced, what men can potentially do, and also, I guess this is actually something that I'm speaking at in August with Laura as well. Is we're doing an event which is bringing people together to talk about feminism, masculinity, femininity, and that side of things, and almost create this spectrum of what it is, of what a feminist
amazing.
sees a masculine man like, and what a masculine man sees a feminist man like, a feminist woman like, sorry,
Yeah,
and
how important.
trying to bring it together and reduce those negativities and those, I guess, preconceptions, right? Is like um, talking about being a man and being masculine for a feminist can be intimidating and scary, but there's a reason that we're doing it, right? It's not to rise up and attack feminism. It's to allow men to have a voice, and it's allow men to grow and be better parts of society, and therefore have healthier relationships with women, with boys, with girls, and all these things. So I think Laura is going to be a really good conversationist, because she's
Yeah,
it's almost divisive in the room, right? But it's really good because for me, and I think you'll agree with this, learning from the other side against your opinion is really, really important to become
definitely.
grounded and have, one, normal conversation, but two, to actually open your mind and not allow you to be narrow minded in things, which for me is where toxicity and naivety and violence and all of those things stem from, is because you're solely fixated on one point, and it's really important hear both sides of the table. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to both of those speakers. So Darren, why don't you intro the people that you've invited?
Yeah, that's really exciting, and that it's exactly that, Lewis, isn't it? It's giving those points. One of the things you see with a lot of politics, that you're either in this camp or you're in this camp, and to sort of listen to that perspective from the other camp doesn't really happen, because I've got to think like this and I've got to believe this because this is the camp I'm in, which is what we won't dive down that rabbit hole. It's one of the reasons I don't subscribe to that. That you can think, you can agree with this, what this person said on this side, and not another thing that they've said. And as you said there, it's taking what works for you, and I'll implement that and see if that works, and not listen to the other stuff that doesn't. You're really excited to listen to both of those. So we've got Chris, who, if people in the Stoke-on-Trent area, Chris Cohen, they'll know him from Feasted. Feasted are providing the food for us there as well. He spoke at one of my events a while ago about founder and family, and it was really juggling those two, building a business and having a family. And they've also adoptive parents as well, so that'd be nice. I don't know whether that'll be his little take on what he talks about. And he just recently spoke at the TEDx as well, and that went down really well, and he enjoyed that. Then we've got Jamie Ike. He's got an online platform called Iconic Media. I did a documentary with those guys on masculinity. They really sort of pushed the boat out, and we'll talk about stuff that people don't want to talk about. They did a really important documentary on obesity and stuff. So they're willing to challenge certain narratives, and they're not scared to sort of speak about that on the platform, which is why it's sort of a subscription platform. Or also a dad, and passionate about being a dad. And then we've got Zoe Clues, who's got Zoe Clues Associates, which is on Harley Street in London. She's quite prominent, speaking on a lot of the media channels, and got some really good opinions on masculinity and femininity and stuff as well. And there's also another one who's really willing to listen and sort of challenge both sides, I think, which is important. It's funny because there's a book called of Boys and Men, Richard V. Reeves, and I don't know if you've read that, Lewis, or if any of the viewers have read that. And he would be what you would class as more left wing, really. Got a lot of opinions and stuff that I don't agree with. But I read the book because I wanted to challenge me sort of thinking on certain things. And then I saw he was interviewed on Stephen Bartlett. And one of the things which is sort of so important with the dynamics of masculinity and femininity, one of the things that he thought his partner wanted him to be more of a feminist. So he was. And then he got the shock bombshell one day that she said to him, "I need you to be more of a man. You're not being a man. You're being more like a woman. You're being more like a friend. You're being more agreeable." And all these things that he kind of thought that she wanted from him, she kind of wanted him to be the opposite in a lot of those ways. And they went to marriage counselling. But it was really interesting that he said once he'd sort of balanced that dynamic a bit more, and he started being more of a man, more of the man, the relationship kind of flourished. So we can told that you need to stop being a man and not be a man. And some guys will do these things that they think the partner wants, when really what becomes attractive is doing the opposite, which is why the masculine and feminine, why we balance each other out so well.
Yeah, it's true. I'm excited for all three of those. Yeah, Chris obviously.
Yeah, amazing.
TED, which is cool, and Jamie and Zoe, of course, which it's going to be interesting. I really love our spectrum. Like even we have a great spectrum of speakers. We have a mixture of women, and I think it will be a really good event. I think it'll be a really powerful event. I think will
Definitely.
encapsulate the concept of positive male role models, and I think it will be something that people will really enjoy attending. I think one of
Yeah,
the
and
go on, sorry. Dan.
so we've got the balance of the masculine and feminine there as well, haven't we? Which is one of the things that we were keen to get as well. To also get that balance. We both do a lot of stuff in the men's space, but this is an event for everyone. This is an event for women and men to come and just hear those different insights and hopefully take some real value away from it.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we forget or is probably mismentioned is that by being a role model as a man, you're not just being a role model to boys, you're also being a role model to girls, you're also being a role model to women, and other men as well, right? So being that pillar and being however you want to describe it, is going to be effective as the population as a whole. So it's important to hear all of those sides and all of those things.
Definitely.
As a father, as a girl dad, as they say, you'll sort of resonate with that
Yeah,
as well
yeah,
as
yeah,
yeah. I think one thing that I just wanted to touch on as well that I think is a little bit different with this event, I guess. This is our first big event. We
yeah.
haven't got let's say a name speaker, someone that's like, wow, everyone really wants to come and see that. But one thing that we're offering as an extra sort of pull is that those speakers will be reachable during the event, so they'll all be
Definitely.
around. We're having gaps between the speaking, so you can engage in conversation, engage in, I guess, critical thinking, right, and actually start to get an understanding from all of these speakers. And it's more of a, I guess it's going to have that sort of festival vibe, isn't it, where like you can wander around without it being
Yeah,
in a field. um,
we'll have stalls there, won't there? The bar will be open. Feasted will be providing food. So yeah, it'll be got a real sort of social aspect to it as well as the sort of personal development aspect, really, isn't it?
yeah, I guess one sort of look, it's not a TRUUMAN podcast without a difficult question, Darren. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'm going to throw a difficult question at you.
yeah, yeah.
What do you think the biggest challenge for us is going to be with this event?
Um, yeah, that's a tough one. The biggest challenge, I think that sadly, and I don't want to. One of the biggest challenges I find in Stoke-on-Trent is getting people through the door.
Yeah,
You get people through the door at events, or groups, or whatever goes on, and they'll talk about how much value and stuff they've got from that. Just getting the people through the door is a tough thing. Um, people We had a wellbeing organisation a couple of years ago, and the amount of people who walked around the block 3 or 4 times, weeks on the top before they actually walked through the door, and then they come through and they were like, "That was amazing." But getting them through the door was a difficult one. So for the people watching in Stoke-on-Trent, and say, come with an open mind, and you're going to have an amazing night regardless. There's going to be, with the wealth of speakers that we've got there, you cannot go away from there without something that's going to make your life better. It's simple as that. But the challenge I find in the area, yeah, is getting people across the threshold.
yeah, definitely. Like it's we're newbies at this, and I agree. But no, I agree with your point as well, that we're the speakers there, and the value that you will get is definitely going to happen. I learned about, I don't know whether I've told you this yet. I learned about a new role that Andy's Man Club hired. It's
Right.
called a sweeper.
Okay.
So they stand at the door, and then just before the group session begins, they go around the car park and look in all the windows of the cars to see if there's any blokes
Right.
sitting outside there, and
Cracking idea.
it's given them something like 30% uplift in people attending,
Wow.
like just knocking on the window, going, "Come on then, bud, you've come this far." And it's obviously
Brilliant.
like I mean, it's still a sad truth, but it's definitely changing. Men are not susceptible to these things. It is tricky to get them through the door, but you have countless testimonials. You've seen other people put things on. It's not hard to find people that have benefited from going to something that openly talks about being a man. And I think one thing that I've tried to echo quite recently, which I think is really important, is I think you touched on it as well, which is when that guy spoke to his partner and she said, I need you to be more masculine or more like a man, is it has real benefits on relationships. So
Definitely.
whether it's friendships, whether that's partners, wives, whatever that looks like, by being able to have that open conversation or start that conversation. And I think this event it's not intimidating. It's a large group.
No.
So that's probably something that we've not touched on yet, is that we're aiming for over 100 men in this room. So it's not like it's going to be intimate. It's not like it's going to be daunting in that sense. You're not going to be picked on to speak. So for me, it's a really powerful entry level event because you can taste everything that you want to taste. And then maybe you go and do something like an Andy's Man Club or a seat at the table, or you subscribe to the podcast. All of these things would be great. But that's where I sort of see this event sitting, is that we're celebrating International Men's Day 1, which is really important for both of us. 2, we get to talk about positive male role models, which again is something that we're really passionate about, and building up men essentially to be better men. And thirdly, for those men who have maybe been to something like this before or never been to anything like this, it's a really good taster event to really open up your spectrum to this. That's my sort of final thoughts on the
and for the ladies, come along and bring your partner. The amount of women who have messaged me about sitting at the table, he come back there and he come back with a brightness in his eyes I'd not seen, or weight had lifted off his shoulders. And I had another friend who he said, I don't know what my missus is trying to tell me, but every time one of your events is on social media, she keeps on saying, have you seen this? What Dazzy's done? Have you seen this? Well, I know what she's fucking trying to tell you. Trying to tell you, you need this. You get out and go for this. So, bring your partners. If it's if you women or the guys, bring your partner along. It'll have just as much of a social side, like we said, as a personal development side, and the food will be amazing as it always is as well. So,
yeah, amazing. Well, Darren, thanks so much for joining me again on the
amazing
podcast. Guys, if you're interested and you like what you hear, links will be below so that you can sort of sign up to the event. Darren, is there any sort of final words from yourself?
Just be open-minded, which we sort of spoke about, Lewis. Come and be open-minded. The thing is, what I find with the Stoke-on-Trent, and you can take this back to the bans and everything. People complain sometimes that nothing ever happens here, and then when it does, they don't necessarily support it when it does. For bigger and better things to happen in the area, and for events to get bigger, you've got to support the stuff that's on. So be open-minded and come along. The arena that we're going to build in Hanley apparently has been pulled back, and things like that get pulled back because people don't attend the things that are already happening. If you hit the things that are already happening, then we get bigger speakers, we get better speakers. The events get not that the speakers aren't good. I mean, you get more popular speakers, and you just grow it. You grow these things. So come with an open mind, and you'll have a great night. And it's a Saturday night as well, so there's no excuse for getting up for work tomorrow.
Amazing, thank you.